welcome to another chat in Corin's world. I'm here with, I think you know him already. This video had a lot of views your first time on. This is my father-in-law, George, Molly's father. You are my first returnee guest on a chat.
No kidding. All right. Well, hey, let's make it more than once, you know? All the good shows have good guests that come back, don't they?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say, is that it's a testament to you, it's a testament to your knowledge, to the advice, to the feedback I got from people that watched the video, that wanted to see you again, that wanted to hear more. To have you back as my first returnee guest, because you've got a lot to say, you've got a lot on your mind, very insightful, very knowledgeable. So you're actually here in Chicago on my home court. Last time we were in New York, my old home court.
We're in New York, yeah.
So you had the home field advantage.
Okay.
But now you're out here. You're visiting your granddaughter, my daughter, Nix. So I'm gonna do things a little differently after I ask you this first question. But first, I want to ask you what it's like being a grandparent, and what that whole world has opened you up to in your thoughts, because it's maybe something that you've never. I'm sure you've thought about it, but until it's actually happened, this is something new for you. So what's that been like for you?
Well, I think anything in life, we think about, whether it's marriage, kids, whatever, grandkids. But until it actually happens, you're right. You don't know what it is until you experience it. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, being here this week, I came out here for the week, specifically, to spend time with you and Molly, which I haven't done since you guys been married. 3 years now, right?
Yep. August 7th, 2016.
Yep, it's 3 years.
Luckily, we have it wooden on our wall over there.
And also, in addition, specifically, Nix is 1.5 now, and I wanted to spend some time with her and see her routine. You guys come to New York, and we meet up, and we go to a restaurant, we eat. It's time for her to go to bed. It's all good, but I just wanted to spend some time with her, basically on Nick's turf. And, so we've been to, dance class, to story hour, and, it was just awesome. So, yeah, it's part of it is experiencing it. I don't know if I had any real preconceptions of it, right? If never thought I'd be a grandparent. It's hard.
Well, you have to assume you've been a grandparent with all the kids you have. As they get older, something that's got to come across your mind, right?
Yeah, but it's just like when you're a kid, you don't really think about marriage or settling down, and then you don't really think about having kids. And then I never really thought about having grandkids. The only time I really thought about it was after, even after you and Molly got married. I really didn't think about it until after Molly was actually pregnant. Mm-hmm. Then it's real. When we were out here 2 Christmases ago and she was pregnant, then I started thinking about it then. And you don't know what it's going to be like until, because it's different. Mm-hmm. When you're raising, when I was raising Molly, you had the controls. Before you got home, we were just talking about some of the hijinks that they used to do. Somebody ran over the neighbor's mailbox. Molly immediately goes into the group text and texts the brothers and sisters trying to find out, who actually ran over the mailbox. But I remember, being like, wait a second, who did this? And trying to, find out, how it happened. And, but that's because she was my daughter. With Nix, you have to take, a more laid back approach, right? Mm-hmm. She's your daughter and she's Molly's daughter, and you guys have to raise her. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it. But other than that, it's really up to you how you raise her.
So how does it feel to, obviously you're a parent for a while and that's all you've ever known. And you're a good parent most of the time. You could be a bad parent, and sometimes there's just there's ups and downs as parents.
Sure.
And you don't really have time to prepare for being a parent, but same thing with being a grandparent. What's the feeling of still learning and still having to figure things out at an older age? Because I know since you've been out here, and obviously I'm working, and there's times where we're not spending time together. We've been in some car rides where we've chatted a little bit, but a sense that I've gotten from you is, as you get older, you start to, and you're still very far away from it, as a lot of people are, but you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So you start looking at things in a different perspective. How does it maybe motivate you to sort of conquer this new challenge as being a grandparent, while also in a bigger picture, embracing a new challenge, learning something new?
Well, first of all, we never stop learning. Learning process, goes on. We should be trying to revolutionize ourselves and grow till the very moment we pass out of this existence.
Yeah.
Right? It never stops. If growth stops, your life stops.
Yeah.
Right. So, I guess I don't really try to quantify it. I take, and as listeners may know or remember, I'm a Buddhist, and the Buddhist perspective is that we experience something and we appreciate it, even if it's bad, good, bad, you want to appreciate it. Appreciation means that you learn something from it. Either I'm going to do that again, or maybe I'm going to go a different way, and you accept it, right? So all of that is how you do it. You have to kind of accept where you are in life, and that's kind of tough for people. I think as we grow out of certain things, we grow out of childhood, we grow into adulthood. Accepting that is kind of tough. Sometimes it's tough to accept that I'm a grandparent, right? Yeah. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think, as and and the listeners may know and remember, Molly's got 6 other siblings. There's 7 of them, and sometimes I think the youngest is 21. They're all grown. That's hard sometimes to process, and you'll find that out because right now Nix is in this amazingly wonderful 1.5-year-old precocious stage. You can't imagine her being grown. Well, Quincy's our youngest. And Molly, lived on my lap when I came home from work. She'd run up, she'd sit on my lap. I remember it like it was yesterday. So sometimes I think, my gosh, that's been, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That was. And so you have to kind of find your balance in that and your appreciation in that, right? Because you can't live in that. But it's all part of growth, though, and Nix is a part of that.
How do you come to the realization or understanding that you need to maybe embrace, change that happens for, whatever reason? Like something that I noticed with you that maybe I hadn't noticed in the past, whereas like if we're at a family dinner and we're eating or something like that, like you scoop onto the plate what you like, you eat that because that's what you've eaten. Something I noticed, we ordered Chinese the other night and I had my dish, I had my rice, I had my spare ribs, and I had my noodles, and that's what I eat. But something that was interesting was like, you know what? You were like, let me try that, which I hadn't seen that from you before. Like, I don't know if that's something consciously that you're starting to do. Like, let me start, he likes this for a reason. It might be good, it might be bad, but was it a conscious decision to start exploring other things that maybe other people are interested in?
Yeah, okay. So that's a very loaded question for me because, as you know, I do some chefing.
Yeah.
So I'm also
we'll get into
I'm a Caribbean chef, and one thing about understanding people's palates, you have, in my opinion, a very simple palate. There isn't a whole lot. I have a very complex palate. So I like heat. I like the layers in which food. But you were having such enjoyment from your simple plate of pork ribs, white rice, and lo mein with nothing in it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, let me try that. Let me see how this minimalist works because sometimes, that's simply what people like. So it's just I think it's a little bit more exploratory for me because as I cook for people, I'm finding that they have different palates, and when you're providing a service, any service, you have to please the customer. It's not about my palate, so it's about what they like, right? Whether I'm cooking for them or buying a car. You got to please the customer. You have to please what they want. So that was kind of all that was. That was just kind of a little exploratory. I was watching you eat that with such gusto. I mean, it's like, okay, here comes round two.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to round two. Let me try a little of that.
Yeah.
It must be good.
Yeah. So you mentioned the culinary world. That's something that is close to your heart. You've done a lot of things throughout your career that we learned about: car business, sales.
Yep.
Well, car business with sales, but in the cell phone industry with Samsung.
Yep.
And now this is almost like a new phase. It's new in the sense that you're really starting to embrace it a little bit more. I feel like in the past, maybe you always cook for the family and you cook for special occasions, but now you're sort of starting to embrace this whole culinary world. Whether it's watching YouTube videos or soon to be starting your own channel, making your own YouTube videos. What is it about the culinary world that excites you? Tell us your background about that a little bit, because as you guys will see, we did a food vlog on curry, West Indian curry.
West Indian curry.
Indian curry.
Guyanese in specific, but
Guyanese,
West Indian in general.
Flavor, authentic Caribbean curry. So you guys will see that, but what's the whole inspiration behind food? Where did that come from?
Okay, so the inspiration behind food came from Molly's grandfather, Nixie's great-grandfather. So my father is the one who taught me to cook. So my father's mother went blind when he was young, when he was 13, 14 years old, and she basically told him that if you don't learn how to cook, we're going to starve. And so Dad learned how to cook under his mother, and she was totally blind, and so he cooked for them. So juxtaposing that was when we were growing up, I had 4 other brothers and sisters, and my mother never cooked, ever. My parents were both nurses. They both worked at the hospital day in, day out, but my dad put the meals on the table, and he was the best cook I've ever known. He took care of Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it. Dad was always in the kitchen. It was his kitchen. He owned it. Well, some of us took to it and some didn't. I loved being in the kitchen with my father, learning from him. That's what he and I did together. Some fathers and sons, they play ball, they hunt some, fish some. We didn't hunt, fish, or play ball together. My dad and I cooked. And so that's where the inspiration came from, quite simply. It's from my father. All credit goes to him on that. And as I get older, and you're right, I've been through permutations. Most of my career was spent in the car business. As a sales professional, I was a dealer owner for years. I was, very involved politically for years in terms of minority and business, minority and women-owned business enterprises getting, fair treatment out there in the business community, loans, all those types of things. Lobbied Washington. Used to go to Washington, used to come here to Chicago. When I worked for a time on Reverend Jackson's Push International Trade Bureau, I used to come to Chicago 4 or 5 times a year. And so I was very, I did all that. But now, as I'm older, I'm not as, that's for another generation. And I feel that, you're right when you said earlier, I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. And, I like to work and do what I really enjoy, and I really enjoy being in a kitchen.
What would you say, just going back to the whole, advocating for women, for minorities and all this stuff, like, how tough is it to see that there's still just such a big separation that happens today, whether it's women getting paid less, Black people and, Hispanic people still getting, called out by the police and, racially profiled. How does that make you feel, knowing that you fought for that so long ago and still seeing the place where we're at now? Do you feel things have changed, or is it almost just like...
Yeah, well, yes, but change is slow. Right? If you ask that question of Harriet Tubman when she was helping slaves come through, during, the era of slavery, when she was running the Underground Railroad, she forced a lot of change. Frederick Douglass forced a lot of change. 1920, women got the right to vote, right, in the 20s, right? So that was change, but change, unfortunately, in our country is slow. So I acknowledge the fact that there are a lot of isms in the country, and they still exist, right? So I think the disservice we do is when someone says, "Oh, we're all Americans and it's all the same." I mean, that's simply not true. I mean, we want it to be. I want it to be. I mean, on a personal level, you're a son to me. I don't care. I don't care about color. But when we walk outside,
I mean, you experienced it just the other day at the grocery store. You
sure,
told me a story of,
sure,
Molly is. You all have seen Molly and you've seen Nick's, and they're two different skin complexions.
sure.
So a lot of the times they go out, and Molly will get looks, and George, giving our daughter, his granddaughter, a kiss, will get a look.
It was a little more than a look. I mean, she was, they came right over.
But that's something that like I'll. And it's like it's not, it's hard for me to say. It's just like, and not that it's any of my fault, but I'll never know how that feels.
No, you won't.
And
no, you won't.
And I don't ever want to try and think how you felt about it, And when people, speak their minds on a topic, I don't think they have the right to comment on it.
So look, here's how I feel about it, right?
And let me just say, like I almost feel like I don't know what to say when I hear that story from Molly and you. So it's like, I don't know how my reaction should be.
Mm-hmm.
I should be mad because that there's somebody out there that is looking at you that type of way. But I guess my question or just thoughts are that, like, how should people feel when they hear a story of someone? And this is a loaded question. This is a big question.
I can't. No, it's fine. I can't speak for anyone else's feelings, right? So we all feel the way we feel, and you have to process that on your own. In my world, we call that karma. Mm-hmm. Karma is not like just something that happens when you do something bad, it gets you back. I hear that all the time. Yeah. Karma is your own way in which you process information, right? And so you develop your own karmic tendencies. Kind of like, your own mind and your heart, and it depends. It allows you to develop the person that you are. Like, if you spend time around bad people, that's how you're going to end up. You're a reflection of the 10 people you spend the most time with. Well, the most person you spend the most time with is yourself. Mm-hmm. So, if you're not kind of scrubbing your thoughts and scrubbing your personality, your biases, being honest with yourself on a daily basis, even on a momentary basis. If you're not being honest with yourself, well, you spend most time with yourself, well, that stuff is gonna kind of infect you. And here's the deal. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, this is very humble because I can't say how anybody should feel, it should bother you. It should bother all of us that you feel that way, right? Mm-hmm. Molly was on them like she came out of like she was a paratrooper and dropped out of a paratrooper.
I call her a pit bull.
She was just like she was like, here, I'll fix this. She goes, that's my daughter, that's my father, and that's his granddaughter. And the ladies were like, oh okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she just settled it in like 2 seconds. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. We all settle this in a way that we can, but just the fact that in 2019, people are still shocked to see that it's okay to love people who don't look like you. That's really what should shock us, right? That should be the shocking thing, that we can't just love people because we're human beings. But let's also understand that that's the way it is, and you should educate yourself about that. So I'm wearing, this is my hero, my ultimate hero is, the brother minister, Malcolm X. And Al-Hajj said clearly that education is the key to the world, and without education, you're not going anywhere in the world. And when he was talking about education, it was not just book education, but educating yourself about people and the differences in people. And and when you do that, that's when you truly grow. So to answer the other part of your question where you said, how does it feel that I worked very hard back in the day for equanimity in in businesses, for minority and women-owned business enterprises, for equal financing, equal access to capital, and a lot of that, it's always going to be an uphill battle, right? And that's one of the things that I understand. Doesn't mean that I stop fighting. It doesn't mean that I'm not as ferocious about equality as I always was, but I'm also a realist. You also have to be realistic about it. And so sometimes I think people confuse being realistic about what we're really dealing with trying to turn it around and say, oh, well, you're the racist or you're the sexist because, we're all just Americans and it should all be just equal. Well, like you said, until you can walk in my shoes, which is not possible, you really never know. You might get a little bit of it when you're with Molly, and someone looks over and they get this little curious thing, and oh, she's brown and he's not, and it happens on everything, Corin. I think I told you the story of someone who was a friend of mine, that when Corin and Molly got married, there's a picture of me kissing Molly just before I was walking. No, Molly.
Oh, Molly, sorry.
Just before I was walking down the aisle.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a yarmulke. And someone saw it on Facebook and said to me, supposedly a friend, and said, is he Jewish? And I said, yeah. I said, and my daughter's converted, and she's Jewish as well. And she goes, well, it would have been better if she married a Christian. And I'm just like, what's wrong with people, And so I said, listen, until you can figure this out and understand that it's not about religion, it's about two people who love each other and want to spend their time together, we really don't have anything much more to talk about. But it happens in everything. It's not just race, right? That was based on religion. Someone said something that.
So how do you educate yourself in a situation like that? Because I'm going to put you on the spot, and you had said that, I don't know if it was you ended the conversation right then and there, or you befriended her or something like that. But
no, I didn't befriend her.
But isn't there an opportunity to educate her in that situation?
There is. So one of the things I don't ever do on Facebook, I don't ever unfriend anybody because I look at it as an opportunity to learn. What I said was I didn't want to speak to her until she could grow enough to apologize to me, because it's pointless. What am I going to listen to her tell me all the time that she doesn't like the choices that my child has made? I didn't raise my child to do that. I raised my kids to live their best possible life in the world. It's a big world. That's not up to me. Doreen's sister lives and works in China. I got one that's a firefighter. He runs into burning buildings for a living. It's their best possible life, right? So no, I ended the conversation, but her growth is up to her, not to me, right? So again, I'll use the word karma, right? So that's her karma, not mine. If I take that on now and try to take a grown woman and fix her or explain to her what is as obvious as the nose on everyone's face, that is a clearly racist or, I don't know, anti-religious, whatever attitude, that's up to her to grow and decide that she wants to grow. And the door's open. So if she wants to have a conversation with me about it, but it's got to come from a sincere and honest place that she really wants to learn, not tell me that my daughter should have married someone other than you. That's not a conversation, right? That's someone just coming and preaching at you.
Yeah.
So, but if she's open to that, that's fine. She sees my page. She sees all the pictures of Nick's and all that. And this was when you guys got married 3 years ago. She hasn't opted to say anything to me.
What role do you think parents have? Because I'm a young parent, Molly's a young parent. And when I just had my chat with Molly, she had mentioned that, you guys raised them as some type of Christian or Catholic. I forgot which type it was. There's so many different branches of it or whatnot. She said you guys went to a certain church or whatever. My question is, what role do parents play in shaping their kids, religious beliefs, if there's a God, if there isn't a God? Is it almost just maybe taking them to temple with you or something, if I'm Jewish, and letting them explore every opportunity that there is out there and make a decision for themselves when they can?
I think the role that parents play is to be completely honest with their kids. So my parents are Christians.
Mm-hmm.
They're Episcopals, very staunch Episcopals. And so all of our children were baptized as Episcopals.
Mm-hmm.
And really that's about it, right? I was always a Buddhist. I wasn't, in the years I was raising the kids, I'll be honest, I wasn't practicing very hard, but I was always a Buddhist. I've never believed in a sentient God, right? That, someone sits up there and decides who lives, who dies. And
do you believe in God?
No, not in the same sense as you would think. In Buddhism, we don't see God as one person who's making a decision. There's a universe. It's a living universe.
Yeah.
What we live in is a cause and effect universe. So everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, and every person in the world, that's a cause. Everything we do, everything we say, everything we think is a cause. For every cause, there's an effect. Mm-hmm. And there's a ripple effect to that, right? So you can have a cause, you can make a cause that the effect, if I go rob a bank, I could end up in jail. That's an immediate effect on a cause. Or I could, if I was a mass murderer, and even after they executed me, and my last name, my name, my family would still be under the brunt of the causes I made in life, right? So it can go past our lives, right? But that is constant. That never stops going. I don't believe that there's someone who decides who lives, who dies, and one of the reasons I don't is because like when a child is killed or dies in a car accident or gets sick or whatever, or someone dies needlessly, not necessarily a child, we say, well, we don't know the mind of God, but this guy's making, or this God is making these decisions. So in the Buddhist realm, we don't see it that way. We see a world where everyone plays a part, but we have the ultimate choice of being the best person that we can be. So we should be trying to, what we call it human revolution. Mm-hmm. You should be trying to revolutionize your life, not just on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, but even on a momentary basis. Yep. It's about always trying to be in every situation the best person you can be with sincerity. Yeah. Not just doing it. It's that old saying, it's how are you acting, how are you thinking when no one's looking? And that's what we do as Buddhists. We're always trying to scrub our own thoughts when no one's looking, and we have control over that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think one of the biggest things I hate seeing is people flaunting their charitable endeavors on social media, or vlogging about it or something like that. Like, hey, I'm gonna give $20 today to every homeless person on the corner. It's great, but that's not how that works. It's being good all the time. It's right. Just maybe if you don't have the $20 to give to a homeless person, like when I walk to work, there's a guy who sits on the corner every morning. I throw him a smile and a head nod, and it's just like there's an appreciation between both of us that it's just like he's going through some struggles, right, and I've got my own struggles, but for that momentary second where we make eye contact, right, we connected, you know, and like maybe, and I'm not saying this to get kudos or anything, but maybe that look I give him or the look he gives me motivates him in some way as he motivates me.
So the key is sincerity, right? Yeah. So even if someone is giving something and it becomes known that they're giving it, if the reason they want it to be known is because if they gave and they think it might help motivate other people to give, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
The question is it coming from a selfish perspective or a sincere perspective, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is, that's always pretty much self-evident. Those are things that we really don't have to look very far.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just take the workplace. In the workplace who are good guys and who the tough ones are, right?
Yeah.
You already know.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we all speak with more than just our mouths, right? We speak with our body language. We speak with our attitude, our actions, the way we come across. And so someone can take an action and it could be the most sincere action in the world. Someone else can take the same action and it's insincere, and so it doesn't have that meaning. So to me, it's not even whether or not someone gave and spoke about it. It's what is the level of their sincerity, for what they're doing, right? You look at people who came along like, King and, Gandhi. They were sincere to the degree that they knew they had a huge chance of losing their lives, right? But that's what sincerity is about.
And that's why, and it's hard to argue this because I don't know, I'm not the best at articulating it, but I just feel, and not to get too political, but I feel
okay.
like Bernie Sanders,
Mm-hmm.
I think he genuinely is sincere about. What was your interest?
No, not at all. I'm going to show you. I'm going to read something to you in a second. I don't lose my interest at all.
I think he is just genuinely sincere and cares about people. And I think he wants to do right by people. And I think he's been fighting for people his whole life. And you don't hear many stories about him wronging people. There's other candidates that you can dig up stuff that they've done stuff for money or this or that. And so when people ask me, why do I support Bernie Sanders or this and that, not to make this a Bernie Sanders thing, but I think he's just a sincere person.
And it means something.
And it means something when he does.
So I'm going to read, and the reason I was paying attention to you. So I'm going to read something from you. This is just a quick thing from a gentleman. His name is Daisaku Ikeda, and he's a Buddhist. He's lives in Tokyo. He's in his 80s now. He's got a tremendous amount of respect worldwide. But here's what he speaks on engagement, right? He says, and this is from a Buddhist perspective, right? Because we believe in peace. But he says, always speak the truth boldly, saying what needs to be said, no matter whom you're addressing. When it comes to championing a just cause, you never be cowardly, never fawn, never curry favor. You just talked about Bernie. That's the same reason why I like Bernie, right? Because I like people that are sincere, and that's what he's saying. If you're championing a just cause, if you're doing something for the right reasons, right? You can't let anything. If you let someone change your mind or change the course of action that you were going to take when you knew that what you were doing was a just cause, then now that's insincere. And it's also, but I understand it, because sometimes to do that, there's always a price to be paid if you're going to go out there and do that, right?
Consequences, yeah.
If you're going to, sometimes it's tough to have that level of courage, man. And in my years with Ford, I could tell you about a lot of people that took, the brunt of things. I know people that, dealers that were blackballed, because of, the stand that they took, the political stand that they took. When you're fighting for equality, man, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're fighting for any level of equanimity. You got a decision to make, right? Is it, should I just sit over here and take the spoils of what others fought for? Because somebody had to fight for it.
Yeah.
Right? For all of us. And I don't care what race, color, whatever. Whoever we are, wherever we are, somebody fought and spoke up, and many people paid that price in blood for us to be here, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in terms of war or whatever. And so the question is, where are we in that fight, right? And so it's a very hard question to answer, right?
I think from what I've seen, and I haven't been in the car dealership, I see it just what's televised to me, what I read, articles. I think even if change in the beginning, it doesn't seem like it's going to be good. It in turn usually starts the ball rolling and ends up pretty positively
Always.
for the person who makes the decision to try to change something. I mean, obviously, there's extreme cases. Martin Luther King Jr. lost his life, but like the torch gets passed, and someone else picks it up and keeps fighting for that cause.
Well, even the people that died, and the list is a lot longer than King. You've got King, you got Malcolm X, you have Medgar Evers, you got Fred Hampton, Huey Newton. I mean, you can go on and on and on. So it's a very long list of people who were fighting for equality, especially for Black people in the 60s and the 70s, many of whom lost their lives. But but that's why we're here, right? You can't forget people like Muhammad Ali, right? I mean, people hated Muhammad when he, let's switch a little bit to politics, hybrid sports, right? Muhammad, stood up and said that, the Vietnamese didn't do anything to him, and basically we were getting, shot in the streets. We were having our communities had been being burnt out since the 20s, right? So, anyone can look up, Tulsa, which was Black Wall Street, Rosewood, Florida. I mean, these are Black communities that were thriving, that were literally burnt out. People were killed. People don't know. Manhattan, we both from New York City. Central Park used to be a Black community, and those Black people were killed and removed from there, right? Not to mention what was done to the Indians, Sand Creek. I mean, we can go on and on. I don't want to, but I'm just saying, those deaths have propelled us to where we are today, right?
Why do you think, not to cut you off, but to stay in sports, why do you think...
Let's keep in sports.
What seems like such an obvious fight, the Colin Kaepernick situation, is so polarizing for people to understand?
Well, because you really want me to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear, because obviously people go disrespecting the flag, which is just such a nonsense argument to me.
Well, look, part of what this country has become very good at is
Deflection.
taking deflection. Yeah, but I'm going to go even further than that, since you asked for an answer on that. But it's taking things in situations like that and criminalizing them. So, the Black Panthers, for example, they were providing food. They were providing breakfast for the needy in Oakland when they started, right? They were not they were a radical group, but they weren't out there trying to kill people. They were armed themselves under the same laws that everybody allowed themselves, to arm themselves, because of what was going on with the police brutality. But what they did is they figured out how to turn that and criminalize it and show that, they're nothing but, like you always see it, they're animals and thugs when we see these kinds of characterizations, right? So
is that a defense mechanism that we we as citizens, I don't know who does it. Is it white people or is it the government that do it because we're scared? I mean,
I think it's a combination of things. I think that there are many people in there are many people in the majority that see that they're people of color and women who are coming up who have more populist thoughts. And let's face it, and they see that, and there's also a whole group of people, let's also be honest, that they work for the government, but they're really on the dole. I mean,
what do you mean by that?
They're basically on the public dole. Listen, if you go back to the First Continental Congress and when the government was formed, these people were citizen administrators. It was never meant for them to go to Congress and be there for 20 and 30 years and be paid $200,000 and $300,000 a year and have all their medical paid for and everything paid for. You've got people in Congress right now, and I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just stating a fact. I mean, they have medical care, which they're basically saying that the rest of us should not have, but they've got it for life.
Yeah.
So and
Well,
so
people go into these politicians go into politics with no money, with
and they come out as millionaires.
They come out as millionaires.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that when you're asking, who is it, is it white people, whatever. I'm saying there's a number of reasons, and let's not keep in mind that part of that is economic, right? So as people come up and bubble up from the grassroots, who want to be in there, well, they're taking seats away from people that
will make an actual change.
That won't make it, that haven't been making change.
Yeah.
That have been sitting there, basically taking who that's their job, and they take advantage of the system. They're basically bigwigs, and so there's a lot of reasons for it, and there's a lot of it is dollar signs. Some of it is race. Groups like the Klan. Why is there an unwillingness to confront the Klan, right? We talk about terrorism. I'm going to be honest with you now. Let's be frank. As a black person, growing up in the 60s and 70s, they always scared me. Mm-hmm. I used to say to my parents, "Oh, they're going to come kill," when we would see them on TV when they were burning crosses on Martin Luther King's lawn and everything. They always scared me. But why are they not a terrorist organization? Why are we, we're homing in on ISIS, and if we
or even these mass shooters,
and if we have to ask, right? So between 1863, which was the end of the Civil War, and 1963, 100 years, there are over 4,000 documented lynchings in our newspapers. They're documented in American newspapers, most of them with their roots in the South and the Klan. But that's not terrorist? Of course it's terrorist. That builds terror in the black community. It makes people afraid. The whole idea is for us to be afraid to go and vote, and afraid to be able to stand up and assert live our normal life and assert our opportunities in America, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons for it, and that, I think, with those folks, I think it's fear. They're afraid that they're going to wake up one day and someone else is going to be running the country, which they did when Obama became president. And I think there's a whole group of people that they're just hell bent on that not happening again. So yeah,
Hence why we have Trump in office.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. But I think at the end of the day, you cannot discount the fact that race plays an absolute huge part in how Americans think and act towards other Americans, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah. So, who are some? You do a lot of reading. You do a lot of researching. I don't know how up to date you are with current activists or people that are, I guess, known as disruptors. Is there anybody that you look at or follow along with that you see making a difference, making a change, that inspires you, and looks at them as, someone you admire?
I admire a lot of the people in the American Indian movement. Mm-hmm. Because of many reasons. Those folks have been working very hard for many years to protect our natural resources. And it's important to them. Natural resources are all part of how we live on a daily basis. And I think indigenous peoples throughout the world, mm-hmm. Have taken the brunt as their habitats have been destroyed. Their homes basically have been destroyed so that companies can go in and mine them and do all that. In terms of individual people, I have a ton of respect for Kaepernick. I think that what he did in terms of standing up on a single issue of when he initially got blackballed or whiteballed, as some people say, from the NFL. I have a lot of respect for the fact that he stood up against the police violence, and that's what it was about. It's got nothing to do with the military. I got family in the military. I just got off the phone last week with my cousin. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Army. She's been in the Army for 27 years. I mean, my nephew's in the Air Force. He's been in the Air Force 18 years. My cousin, was a sergeant major in the Army. I have a lot of respect for the military. A ton. They protect us. But I also think, again, you have to tell the truth, right? And when people are being shot in the back and all that, it's not good enough just to say, well, it's either us or them, or, that's what it is. And protest, by the way, is as American as apple pie. The Tea Party, the original Tea Party, when all the tea was thrown into the harbor in Massachusetts, was a protest, right? So, I mean, these are, and it was a protest that destroyed property. Mm-hmm. When someone else's property was destroyed, so you can't have it where it's, it's good on one side, but not good on the other, right? You're either, this is either something that you think is American, and if you're going to dress up and say that you believe in the Tea Party and you're a Tea Partier, then you can't get upset when people go out and they march in Ferguson. And I get it, some people are like, oh, well, there was looting and there was burning, blah, blah, blah. But again, violence, I brought up earlier, Tulsa and Rosewood and some of these places, that were, looted and burned and, people killed. I brought up Sand Creek. Mm-hmm. That was the Indian massacre. The Indians were massacred. Their homes were burned and their artifacts were stolen and are still in museums to this day.
I mean, the Holocaust sort of,
the whole, something like... Yeah, right. So, I mean, when do you to me, you can't quantify any of it. You either deal with it and say, you can't say, well, this one's better. Well, this was a Tea Party, right? Why? Because, it was about the New Englanders who were fighting for, their rights, taxation without representation. So that was okay. But it's not when it's, people in inner city America being clubbed or, shot or whatever. I mean, everybody has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's what we claim, right?
So do you have any type of feeling, and we'll probably post this, not this Friday, but next Friday, so I don't know how recent it'll be in the news, but like, what type of feeling do you feel when you hear the guilty verdict for the police officer woman who shot the black guy who's just in his house?
Well, here's what it is, right? So she was guilty 2 days ago, and I felt that was a fair verdict. Mm-hmm. Right? But again, I'm not sitting on the jury, but I still feel it was a fair verdict, right? She shot him in his house, wrong floor, the whole 9 yards. It was just too many questions. She could have called for backup.
Yeah.
There's many things she could have done.
Yeah.
But she chose to shoot twice and take his life. Mm. What really upsets me, I was happy about the guilty verdict. But what upset me, and again, in the black and brown airspace, let's say, internet space, whether it's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of them, there's a lot of anger today, because today the sentence came down and she only got 10 years. And so once again, it's always like, our lives are, always not worth quite as much. And so, I mean, that's always...
How does that make you feel about our judicial system?
The judicial system, this makes me feel the way it's always felt. I never felt the judicial system's been fair to black and brown people. Uh-huh. I'll be clear on that. I've just never felt that it was. There's never been equanimity for people of color in the judicial system.
And it's just something that you have to...
You got to live with it. You got to fight. Well, you got to fight. No, you don't. You don't have to live with it. What you do is you got to fight each one on an individual basis, right? So we got to win in the
guilty verdict,
and a loss in the sentencing, right? Who was the black cop that shot the white woman from Australia a couple years ago?
I don't
I
remember.
mean, he got like, he got, it was almost life. I don't have it, but it wasn't.
Well, I mean, we were
10 years,
talking about certain situations. There's a black lady who had she was pregnant, and I think she got shot, and the baby got killed, and she got charged with murder.
She got charged with murder.
Or there's other situations where it's a white lady. I mean, like, the list goes on and on and on.
It goes on.
Unfair,
right?
Verdicts, and it's just.
Well, and here's the problem. The problem is we keep taking these things as if they're all one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes up, people, that's just, that one's just happened over there, and you don't know the circumstances. And this guy went into the church and killed people. Yeah, he must be mentally ill, right?
Yeah.
But if the
or
person,
we didn't see the beginning of the video.
or we didn't see the beginning of the video,
yeah.
but the second the person is a person of color, if the person has an Islamic name, or a Middle Eastern name, or something, it's immediately they're terrorists, they're animals, and they're thugs, and we notice that.
Yeah.
So let me be clear on this. As a black man, we notice that.
Mm-hmm.
So black people, as a fact, if anyone who thinks out there, and I'll just say this directly to the camera, anyone out there that thinks that when they're talking about thugs and animals, that black people don't know that you're referencing us, that's been a reference to us ever since I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So or that I could even remember. So
yeah.
That's always that, there's certain words, or sometimes people like to call them dog whistles. So yeah, that stuff is out there. But again, you can't. So it's an old adage: how do you eat an elephant, Corin? You know how to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you've got to take on all of these situations one at a time,
mm-hmm.
and you can't do it through frustration, and you can't do it. You can be frustrated, but you're not going to win a battle if you go in and you're just frustrated and you're upset and I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall. It's not going to stick. What you have to do is you have to take everything on the facts and go in and learn from what happened this time and fight the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. So it's like molasses uphill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure. One more serious type question.
Sure.
Reverting back to sports, what's your take? Because Native Americans is pretty close to your heart, and like how they've been fighting.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on like Redskins logo, Braves with tomahawk chant, and Cleveland Indians mascot? Do you think Redskins should change their name and all this stuff?
That's very simple to me. I think that to dehumanize people that way and have us think that it's all about sports, whether it's a professional team or a high school team, is a joke to me. Bomani Jones, the ESPN reporter, wore a shirt a few years back that was a knockoff of the Braves with the smiling Yahoo,
mm-hmm.
and it said the Caucasians, and it had a smiling white guy on it, and people lost their minds over it. But as well they should. But he was making a point, right? He was making a point. You could find it on Google. For those you go and look it up. It's a great shirt he wore. I don't know if you remember it.
No, I don't.
When he did that.
But that's genius.
But it is genius.
Yeah.
But he did that, and people, they absolutely lost their cookies over it. And so why would we think that by calling a team Redskins that they wouldn't lose their cookies over it? And why would we continually try to find a way to minimize them as human beings and come up with all the excuses in the world to tell us that this is what we should be doing? So yeah, I honestly, I think it's bullshit, and I think that it's a way of keeping your foot on the throat of someone else's culture. I don't think you'd ever have, you could never get away with the Washington Kikes.
Yeah.
You couldn't get away with the Washington Niggers. You couldn't get away with it. Why should you be able to get away with the Washington Redskins?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point.
And it's awful. It really is awful. It's a nickname. Find another one.
Yeah.
And don't use it's tradition. There's a lot of things that are tradition. Heck, we were slaves, man, for 400 years, almost 400 years. That was a tradition too.
Yeah.
Should we have still been?
Well, it's almost like if they're coming out with an Alabama team or something. It's like the Alabama slaves.
Right.
It's just.
I mean,
should
we have been picking cotton and whipped into submission for free because it was tradition? I mean, there's a lot of bad traditions, right? You know, the Chinese people came in here, built San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were summarily killed. They were acted like, like they were nothing, right? I mean, that was tradition. There's a lot of traditions.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's terrible too.
And if we are the country that we say we are, and we have it written down, right? That we have it written down. That we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Do we have that written down?
We do.
Okay.
But the guy who wrote that all men are created equal, probably had someone at his house who wasn't equal to him.
Well, he left out the white men part.
Yeah. That's
I mean, because people of color and women were not equal at that time. But
100%.
But the fact is, they left it in, thinking that there was a lot of stuff that they did. If you go back and you look, when they were writing the Constitution and even the Declaration of Independence, when they were going through it, there were things they left in and things they left out, right? There's no mention of God or Jesus or anything in any of the documents, right? In the Declaration of Independence, I believe, there is a mention of a creator, right?
I don't know it too. I can't.
One time, creator is mentioned. That's as far as they go. They don't bring a Bible, nothing, right? But all I'm saying is they were being forward-thinking in the fact that, you know, we live in a country where you have people of several different faiths, right? That it was not going to be a country built just on, you know, one religion. And even though at the time it was one race, I think that the framers, and I always think that's a good name for them, I think that they saw a little bit into the future because of...
But I'll stop you. I think their shit is outdated. I mean, like...
Like what?
I just like the right to bear arms and...
What does it say, though?
I don't know.
A well-regulated militia. In the Second Amendment. It doesn't just say you have the right to bear arms, but it's...
I mean, I don't know the...
Yeah, but it says a well-regulated militia. What's a well-regulated militia?
That's what I'm saying. It's outdated.
Yeah.
You can't, regardless of what you're writing, I can't write something down here right now and say...
so what do you think? There should be another Continental Congress?
There should be new rules. I mean, like, times change. Like, if I wrote down here, you know, no driveway should have more than 2 cars in their front yard or something like that. In 90 years, there's not going to be cars. Like, it's just certain shit that change. Like, stuff changes.
I agree. I'm just saying. I think certain things. I think they were forward thinking of, and I go back to what you mentioned, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment clearly references a well-regulated militia. It says you'll always have the right to bear arms. I mean, you know, it doesn't say any arm, and if you went with it at the time, they were ball and powder muskets, right? So, yeah, I mean, you know, I do think some of it is outdated, but I mean, changing it. You got 27 amendments to the Constitution, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the two that are near and dear to my heart is the 13th and 14th, which is, abolishing slavery and involuntary servitude, right? So, I mean, you know, there are people that say that, you know, that those aren't real, and that, you know, black people aren't real citizens, and other dumb nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, so
let's lighten things up a little bit.
Let's lighten it up.
Let's go back to food for a second.
Okay.
What culture, what ethnicity do you think has the best food?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. Well,
I could tell you mine. I think pretty. Actually, I mean, You think of one and then you start thinking of other meals from another.
Okay, well, I grew up with West Indian food,
Uh-huh.
and
But not what you've grown up with, stuff you've tasted, and, you know, like everything. Don't have any biases towards anything.
well, I mean, I've had the opportunity to see a lot of different countries in the world, and I've eaten authentic food. First of all, let's just say that the food we eat here, not too much of it is authentic.
That's
right?
a good point. Yeah.
When I
Chinese
was
food.
in Italy and I was eating food, it was very much like eating a lot of, not all of it, but some of it was very much like eating soul food, right? You know what I mean? Like they eat pig knuckles. That's pig's feet for those of you who don't know, or you could call them trotters. But when I was in Italy, they eat those. They eat chicken gizzards. They eat tripe, right? All things that we eat, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't going to eat that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you're quaffing down any.
No.
You're not
I mean,
quaffing
I think
down
I
any.
hear Italian, I'm thinking like penne alla vodka and,
Yeah.
you know, chicken parmesan.
Chicken
like,
parmesan
yeah,
and
the staples.
spaghetti and meatballs.
The staples here.
But when you get over there and
Yeah.
you're dealing with authenticity, right? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that those aren't staples, but they also realize those are foods that Americans like, and
Yeah.
that that there's a lot more to their cuisine than just that. So I mean, so the world over, I think they, I mean, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't eat that sometimes when I see some of these cooking shows, but man, I like curries. I like stuff cooked with coconut milk. I like stuff cooked with fruit, pineapple, mangoes. The best cuisine, the best cuisine to me would, and I know this is gonna sound maybe like me really chickening out, but it's probably American food. It's probably hamburger, cheeseburger, fries. I mean, I just love that. I mean, I love my West Indian food. Don't get me wrong. I love my curry, roti. Oh,
Some
it's
hot
absolutely
dogs, some
delectable.
chicken.
Yeah, but as a kid, I grew up with. I grew up around that West Indian food. As I said, my dad cooked it, but I also grew up around, hot dogs, hamburgers, French fries, steak. I love steak. So, basic food like that, comfort food, I think, in terms of something that if I was going to say, what would I cook as a chef for, across the board, no matter what, that's probably the direction I'd go.
All right, I'm getting a little tired, so we'll wrap it up here.
Okay.
But I want to finish with this. I want to just open the floor to you, and if there's anything else you want to talk about, if you want to ask me something or anything you just want to say. I know you potentially want to start your own YouTube channel and do some cooking, do some vlogging. I'm definitely very interested to learn more about different foods that you make, and hear more about your interests, which,
Well, the only thing, what I want to do is, I do authentic Caribbean, and trying to take it to a level where I can't go out there and cook at a restaurant on a daily basis, but I'm going to offer classes. I've already got a couple lined up. So I'm going to offer some cooking classes. How to do it that way, and yeah, I mean, and my vlog is the idea for my vlog is the kids are all right. I wanna go out like I came here, and I see how you and Molly are doing, and Nick's. So I got a daughter that lives in Florida. Gonna go and visit her. I got a daughter that lives in China. And I want to go and visit her next year, and I want to vlog as to, what they're doing, how they're doing, just like I was doing here, how they're eating, what they eat when they're there, cook for them. And got a son that's in Texas right now. He's in AmeriCorps. He's building houses, and the other three boys live in Rochester. One's a tech guru for a law firm, one's a barber, and the third one's a firefighter. And I've spent some time around a firehouse. I cook for those guys all the time. and I want to start vlogging that. That's interesting life, man. In the middle of cooking and making dinner, sometimes that alarm goes off and
I was talking to
they go flying down.
You guys saw it. I had a chat with Max, and I asked him, is it tough to get good sleep? Because it's just always that. I know when I go to sleep and I wake up at 4 in the morning, because I get up at 5 every morning.
Mm-hmm.
There's that alarm in my head that I know in an hour this alarm's going off, and you
Right.
can't get that good sleep that you want to get.
Right.
You know it's there. The alarm's coming, and then in half an hour you recheck your phone, and then you got a half an hour left, and you just can't get that good sleep. So, I can't imagine what it's like to be a firefighter, knowing that at any moment you could be up and putting bells on and going out into the freezing cold, or it's.
And those guys, when they're
admirable.
going, man, they're 100%.
Oh, I know. You got to go from 0 to 100 real
0
quick.
to 100. They've got all their turnout gear on. Boom.
When you were just knocked out sleeping.
When you were just knocked out sleeping. And if it's and I mean, their response time is under 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they can be out, and in under 4 minutes they're in the truck and on the way to the incident. It's crazy.
It is.
But that's what they do when you save lives, right? So I want to vlog him. So the kids are all right, and you'll find that as a dad, once the kids are good, you're good. So I'll ask you a question. How is it as year and a half in as a dad?
I think it's one, been awesome, and two, it's just ever learning. I'm learning new things every single day. Just as my daughter's learning, I'm learning. She teaches me things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to think that at 19 months she can teach me things. But
it's amazing. Right?
She teaches me how to love more. She teaches me how to be more patient, more calm. More caring. It's incredible. It really is. And at times our relationship takes a strain on it, me and Molly. But our daughter helps us in that way to figure things out, and it's truly amazing, and it's something that you can't explain to another dad. So when they say, do you've got advice, or can you teach me something, or can you prepare me? All these classes, they might be helpful and they might be beneficial to, learning CPR and doing all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But Molly tells me before we had Nix, like, try and study, try and do this. And it's just like, you can't teach the feelings that you feel in certain situations.
Right.
You can learn about them, but it's going to be totally different than just experiencing it.
No, it's a growth. Having a child is a growth. It's like nothing. You grow as a person, you grow as a human being far beyond what you thought. From the outside, you see people caring for children, right? Mm-hmm. And you see them taking care of them and lifting them up and feeding them in a restaurant. But the growth that you go through it's so far beyond that. It's difficult to even kind of sometimes put into words.
It is super hard, but I wouldn't change anything for the world. It's special, and it makes you think about other people that have children that go through certain situations. We've got a friend whose daughter has gone through multiple open heart surgeries at such a young age, and there's mm-hmm. kids with disabilities, and they can't even imagine what that's like, but they face it head on, and that's their experience.
That's their experience, right? Yeah, absolutely. So this has been great, man. Number 3 coming at some point in the future. We always seem to have a lot to talk about. It always goes fast when you and I do this.
Yeah,
man.
No, it's cool. I enjoyed the conversation, and there's always more to talk about. So George, feel free to ask him questions. If you're interested in a certain meal, like I said, there'll be the vlog on the curry that I tried. I've had it before, but this one was bomb again.
Yeah. And it was, and I will say on this one, it was minimalist. In other words, I didn't, because Corin doesn't like, and Molly, they don't do like a lot, they don't do heat.
Yeah.
So it was curry, it was good, it was flavorful, but I turned the heat on it off.
Yeah.
I turned it off, but so you still got the flavor.
Yeah, it was still bomb. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys made it to the end, because there's some nice little tidbits, some good notes in here. I always appreciate my father-in-law. Love you. So
Love you too, man.
thanks for doing another chat and sitting down, and we'll do it again.
Do it again.